Good day, everyone. The topic that we're gonna tackle today is about the bioethical issues. So, we're gonna explore the morality behind scientific advancements. Alright, so let me start with a simple question. What would you do if science offered you the chance to create life, save it, or even end it under certain conditions? So, these are not just hypothetical scenarios, as they are real dilemmas that we face today because of advancements in technology and medicine. So, we're gonna dive into the controversial world of bioethical issues. So, bioethical issues, it refers to the ethical dilemmas where moral questions regarding medicine and biology arise. It involves rights and decisions about life, health, and medical practices. So part 1 is the beginning of life issues. So let's start with one of the most debated bioethical issues, abortion. The term itself means the termination of fetus, wherein in some cases it happens spontaneously like miscarriage. But the moral debate arises in an induced abortion where the pregnancy is intentionally ended. So the big questions are, does a fetus have a moral standing? And at what stage does it become a person with rights? And under what condition, if any, is abortion morally acceptable? For example, should abortion be legal in cases like rape where pregnancy results from trauma? So some may say that laws should provide reasonable grounds for abortion, protecting the rights and well-being of the victims. But even then, we face a deeper questions, like, is it morally right? Or is it ethical to prioritize one life over another? So this only proves how complex the issue really is. Second is assisted reproductions. It is a modern medical solution that is for couples who are struggling with natural conception. Because normally, a pregnancy occurs when a woman ovulates and the sperm will then fertilize the egg. However, some couples are facing difficulties with conceiving. That's why the science has developed assisted reproductive technology. So these are methods that is done without natural intercourse. So it includes medical procedures that will aid in fertilizing the egg. It's either with the help of the genetic material from parents or with the help of donors or surrogates. Now, we have here the common ART method or the assisted reproductive technologies methods. First is the artificial insemination, wherein the sperm is introduced into the woman's reproductive system without intercourse. Second is in vitro fertilization or IVF, wherein the egg and sperm are fertilized outside the body and the embryo is then implanted into woman's uterus. And lastly is surrogacy, wherein another woman carries the baby for intended parents. So while these technologies provide hope, they also carry or raise ethical concerns. One is a natural process. Second is threat to the family. And third is the impact on women. And lastly, medicalization of infertility. So it can impact women. It can create pressure on infertile women and reinforce the idea that childbearing is a woman's primary role. So medicalization of infertility. It implies that being childless is a problem and that it should be treated. So here's an example. So imagine a couple who has been trying to have a baby for years but cannot conceive naturally. Now through IVF, they are given a chance to build a family. But this brings up ethical concerns. So are these methods unnatural? Or should we limit their use to avoid designer babies and that children whose traits are chosen before birth? That's why they are called designer babies. And what do you think? Is it a miracle of science or are we crossing the line? Next is cloning. Cloning is a scientific process that allows the reproduction of genetic material without sexual reproduction. So in cloning, scientists replicate an organism's genetic material to create a genetically identical copy organism. So here we have two main types of cloning. First is the reproductive cloning. So this method, it uses somatic cell nuclear transfer, or also known as SCNT, to create a new organism with the same DNA as the original. So here we create a new organism identical to the original organism, because we're gonna use the DNA of the original organism to replicate that specific organism. So we have examples like in animals like sheep, cows, or cats to create genetically identical offspring. Second is the therapeutic cloning. In therapeutic cloning naman, this is used for medical research, such as growing stem cells to treat diseases like diabetes or heart conditions. So while cloning has potential benefits, it also raises ethical concerns. First is we have the embryo mortality, or the process involves, it is a process that involves creating and destroying embryos, which raises moral questions. So philosopher Immanuel Kant believed that every human, even an embryo, should be treated as valuable and not as a tool for scientific use. And second is the reproductive cloning risk. So it often results in genetic defects and health problems kasi, which can lead to suffering for cloned animals or humans. So the cloned animals, or the result of that scientific process, will suffer. And third is the identity and expectations. So a cloned child might be expected to live up to the original person's abilities. Like for example, if a child were cloned from Kobe Bryant's DNA, people might expect them to be a basketball star, so limiting their freedom to create their own identity, their original identity. So yeah, that is cloning.
Maintenance of life issues. Organ transplantation. Transferring an organ from a donor to a recipient to replace a failing organ. So it is a medical procedure that saves and prolongs lives. It involves transferring an organ from a donor, either living or deceased, whose organ is failing. So there are ethical issues. The first is the organ shortage. Many patients die waiting for donors. So ang ibig sabihin nito is maraming pasyente ang namamatay dahil sa pag-aantay ng kanilang donor, which is naglilid ito ng pagtatalo na kung dapat bang mapagaan ang mga regulasyon upang mapataas ang mga supply. And the next is the donor right and consent, ensuring ethical and voluntary donations. So may mahigpit din silang regulasyon upang maprotektahan ang mga tagatanggap at mga nagdo-donate. And sinisigurado rin nila na ang pagdo-donate ay ethical at kusang loob. So the next is the illegal organ trade, preventing exploitation. So some argue that these regulations are too strict, making it harder to get a donor for a patient in need. And samantalang naman ang iba ay naniniwala sa patakarang ito upang maiwasan ang pang-aabuso at illegal na kalakalan ng mga organs. For example, ito ay isang sitwasyon kung saan may dalawang pasyente ang naghihintay ng heart transplant. Ang isa ay malusog na bata at ang isa naman ay matandang may sakit na dulot ng kahirapan. So, sino sa kanila ang dapat unahin? Dapat bang piliin ang mas may mahabang buhay or ang may edad na? Ano ang gagawin mo kung ikaw ang magdedesisyon? Now, let's talk about genetics, the building blocks of life. Science has advanced to the point where we can identify and modify genes through genetic testing, therapy, and enhancement. Genetic testing and screening. Nakakatulong ang genetic testing sa mga tao upang malaman kung may dala ba silang genes na nagdudulot ng sakit na namamana. And on larger scale naman, tinutulungan ng genetic screening ang mga gobyerno na matukoy ang mga panganib sa kalusugan ng mga tao para mapabuti sa pampublikong kalusugan. The next is the gene therapy. Ang gene therapy naman is layunin niyang gamutin ang mga sakit sa pamamagitan ng pag-ayos ng mga sirang gene. Gumagana ito sa pamamagitan ng pagdaragdag o pagbabago ng genetic material upang mabalik ang normal na paggana. Kung ang paggamot ay nakakaapekto lamang sa pasyente, tinatawag itong somatic therapy. Ngunit kung ang gene naman ay naipapasa sa susunod na henerasyon, ito ay tinatawag na germline therapy. Gene enhancement. Unlike gene therapy, which fixes diseases, gene enhancement aims to improve normal traits such as intelligence and physical abilities. While successful in animals, it uses in human controversial. Health resource allocation. Imagine being in a hospital where there are only 2 ventilators left, but 3 critically patients need them. Who gets priority? This is the challenge of healthcare resource allocation. According to Buchanan 2009, healthcare resources include medicine, treatments, and even hospital infrastructure. However, since these resources are limited, we face tough decisions on how to distribute them fairly. Levels of allocation. Micro level. At micro level, hospitals decide which patients receive care first. And in macro level, the government allocates funding for hospitals, medical research, and healthcare services. Ethical challenge. Limited resources lead to tough decisions such as who get life-saving treatments during shortage. How do we balance fairness and urgency? So this is why healthcare resource allocation remains one of the biggest ethical challenges in medicine.
Now, let's talk about one of the most controversial bioethical issues, euthanasia, often called mercy killing. It involves ending someone's life intentionally to relieve their suffering. But it is ethical? The doctrine of double effect helps us analyze this moral dilemma. While euthanasia provides relief from unbearable pain, it also results in death, which raises ethical concern. Some argues that if the intention is purely to ease suffering and not cause of death, it may be morally accepted. But the real question is, where do we draw the line? Would you consider it an act of compassion or a violence of life sanctity? For example, consider a patient in extreme pain from terminal illness with no hope for recovery. They ask their doctor for euthanasia to end their suffering. Should their request be honored, or is it the duty of medical professional to preserve life, no matter the circumstances? What would you do if faced with such a choice? The second topic is brain death and vegetative state. The question is, when does life truly end? Is it when the heart stops or the brain ceases to function? The brain death and persistent vegetative state challenge our definition of life and death. There are three main approaches. The cardiopulmonary approach defines death as a reversible stoppage of heart and lungs. However, the advanced medical technologies, a person's organ can function even when the brain is damaged. This brings us the whole brain approach, which defines death as a total cessation of the brain's activity, including both higher and the lower. Lastly, the higher brain approach considered death as a loss of higher brain function responsible for consciousness. This raises ethical question. Should this patient be considered dead for organ donation or euthanasia?
Information and research issues. Truth-telling in medicine is grounded on three ethical principles. First, the Kantian principle emphasizes respecting the patient as an autonomous individual. Second, utilitarian reasoning focuses on maximizing the good for the patient. And lastly, the doctor-patient trust bond is essential. However, truth-telling creates an ethical dilemma. For an instance, if patient has a critical condition, should the doctor share the truth and risk reducing hope, or should they withhold the truth to improve recovery chances? This is where medical paternalism comes in. Doctors act based on what they believe is best, especially if patients are unable to fully understand the complexities for their conditions. On the other hand, informed consent ensures that patients are not just aware of their conditions but also understand their choices. This is not a morally obligation but also a legal one. Treating patient without informed consent can lead to serious legal consequences for the physician. Here's an example. A terminally ill patient asks their doctors if they recover but the prognosis isn't good. Should the doctor be fully honest or leave some room for hope? Balancing honesty and compassion isn't easy, but it's essential for ethical decision making. 2. Confidentiality and research. Confidentiality has been a cornerstone of medical ethics, emphasizing the protection of patient information. As outlined in the Hippocratic Oath and the Philippine Medical Association Code of Ethics, healthcare professionals are morally legally bound to maintain this trust. Ethical research is grounded on three principles: respecting individual dignity and maximizing benefits while minimizing harm, and promoting justice by fairly distributing the burdens and benefits. Scholars like Luna and Maclean highlight the responsibility of research to ensure that studies responded to local health priorities and provide lasting benefits to participants and their communities.
Lastly, in conducting research, it is important to ensure fairness in how between benefits and burdens are distributed. According to Luna and Markley in 2012, there are three key principles to promote distributive justice. Number 1, research should be address community health needs. This means the studies should be benefit the population where they are conducted, not just serve outside interest. Number 2, participants should not be left worse off. If a treatment was given during the study, it is unethical to stop providing it if they still need it afterward. Number 3, research should leave lasting benefit. It is wrong for external sponsor to conduct studies in poor communities and then disappear without leaving any support or benefit behind.
In summary, bioethical issues challenge us to reflect on what is right and humane in the face of scientific and medical advancements. From the beginning to the end of life, and in the way we handle information and resources, these dilemmas push us to balance science with ethics and innovation with compassion. As future decision makers, it is important that we stay guided by respect for life, fairness, and human dignity. That's all. Thank you for listening.